Welcome, everyone. Hello, hello. My name is Anna Raful. I'm your host of At This Stage, presented by Camp Broadway. With our friends at Streamable Learning, I am live to you here in my apartment in New York City. So excited to connect you with Broadway professionals on and off the stage, connecting them to you, our students, our teachers, our families from all across the country and beyond. I'm so excited to have you here for the next 35 minutes or so. Start thinking of those questions you have and go ahead and enter them into the Q&A, and I promise I will try to get to as many of them as possible. Okay, so I'm so excited for our guest today. Our guest today is Charity Angel Dawson. Hi, Charity.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Welcome, welcome. I'm going to give you a brief bio here in case you aren't as familiar with Charity as I am. So Charity is a fantastic Broadway actress. She made her Broadway debut in Sideshow as the fortune teller, and she originated the role of Nurse Norma in Waitress, and then went on to perform not only that, I think you did that as well, as Becky on tour throughout the country. She also toured with just, these little shows, The Color Purple, Dreamgirls, you might have heard of those. And I'm so excited. She will be making another Broadway appearance, hopefully in the fall or summer, in Mrs. Doubtfire as Wanda Sellner. Welcome, Charity. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
How are you? Where are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm in my little studio apartment in Brooklyn, just hunkering down, taking it one day at a time, but I'm happy, healthy, and blessed to be able to say that.
Great. Before we talk about Mrs. Doubtfire, let's go back to the beginning. How did you first get involved with theater? What was an experience that made a strong impression upon you?
Oh, I was first introduced to musicals with the classic movie musicals like Oklahoma and The Sound of Music and White Christmas. And I fell in love with musicals, but I didn't really know that, about live theater and doing it in that way. I did my first musical when I was in high school, my senior year of high school. I was in a production of The Wiz, and I played Eveline. I'm going to share a photo here.
Ooh, Eveline.
I was Eveline, the Wicked Witch of the West.
I love that.
That was my first musical I ever did, and I loved it. I fell in love with it, but I really didn't understand that it was something that you could do for a career. Not until a few years later when I made my first trip up to New York.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And did you sing before? Did you dance at all, or really that was sort of your first push into the world of live theater?
I've always been a singer. My whole family sings. My mom, my dad's a musician, my siblings all sing. My brother is a gospel recording artist. And so music has always been there, and I've always loved stories. But when I discovered musical theater, I discovered that I could put them both together, and it was off to the races from there.
Do you have a favorite memory from The Wiz?
From The Wiz. Oh, yeah, well, The Wiz, that cast was with Valley Youth Theater in Phoenix, Arizona. And the cast, I'm just going to pull this photo up and see if you recognize some of these people in this photo. So we have here, Emma Stone is next to me there.
Amazing.
Max Crum, I'm in the corner here. Max Crum is above her. I don't know if any of you are fans of Drag Race, but Britta Filter, who's on Drag Race this season. Kamiko Glenn here is a little young girl.
Oh my gosh.
So there were so many people in that cast, and we all had such a good time, and we still keep in touch and keep in contact. So yeah, it was great making memories with them.
I love that you have that full cast. Okay, so you finished high school. Did you go straight to theater, or did you go straight to college?
Well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do because I still hadn't really been introduced to Broadway yet. So I went to community college for a year. I was taking sign language. I was thought maybe I wanted to be an interpreter in the theater. And because I excelled at sign language because I'm an actor, you know. And so, but I started performing in this musical theater troupe, and they brought us to New York for a spring break, and we saw a couple of Broadway shows, an off-Broadway show, did some audition workshops and stuff. But it wasn't until I saw my first show, I saw Thoroughly Modern Millie, that in that theater, and I looked around and I said, wait a minute, this is a thing. And then I found out on that same trip to New York about AMDA, and they were auditioning in Phoenix right after we were getting back, you know, from our trip. So I got a monologue together, got a song together, and auditioned and got into AMDA, and I moved to New York to go to AMDA.
And so AMDA is, for our friends that don't know, is the American Music, I'm going to say this wrong, American Music Academy, no, Dramatic Arts Academy, right?
Musical and Dramatic Academy.
Say it one more time.
American Musical and Dramatic Academy.
Musical, I always think music. And that's, we had some friends here earlier. We had Kevin Curtis.
Yes.
Also went, and Camp Broadway aficionado Sunny Naughton also went to AMDA. And what was that experience like for you now, being placed right in the middle of New York?
It was an intense program. It was a very intense program. I feel like with any program, you get out of it what you put into it. And I came I was like, this is what I'm here to do. So I worked really, really hard, and you know, long hours rehearsing on my own outside of class, but it was great. I took a lot away from it, and things that I still use to this day. But it was quite a difference jumping from Phoenix, Arizona to New York City. But I had a great time, and I learned a lot.
Do you remember any specific class that really just helped you solidify, yes, this is what I want to do, or a specific teacher, someone that encouraged you?
I'm trying to think of a specific class. I know one class really helped me a lot, vocal production and speech. That class, when I first got to AMDA, they called me Mushmouth because I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I lived in Detroit, Michigan for a long time, Phoenix, Arizona. I had this combination of all these different parts of the country on my speech. And it really helped me to be able to articulate things that we need to do in this field, to be understood, to be able to work on different accents, to write things out phonetically. It's a skill that I think was very important that I picked up in there. That's one example.
Absolutely, I love that. What was do you remember your first audition in New York? Do you remember, or what was that like, different from what you had done in Phoenix and even what you did in college into moving into a professional world?
It felt completely different from anything I had ever done before. I had gone to little auditions here or there, but it just felt, it was at the Equity Building, and you know, I was like, okay. So of course I was non-equity. I was in school. It was my fourth semester, my last semester of AMDA, when you can start auditioning. So I auditioned. I was going to audition for The Lion King. And I'm sitting on the little side, and they're like, they're seeing non-union people. Oh gosh, the whispers are going around. They're seeing us. So, you know, I get back there. I get to the other side, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm here. And it's like, okay, 16 bars of, you know, your best 16 bars.
Which is about what, like 30 seconds?
Yeah. So I decided I had a rude cut of "And I'm Telling You," a very rude cut, because it stopped right at "There's no way I will." Thank you. So it was disrespectful because, of course, that's like right before the big "and I." So I knew I was going to be able to sing more. So they stood up behind the table. Please sing the rest. Oh, give us more. Here I am thinking, this is it. I'm in the Lion King. Because they were cheering and applauding and crying and all kind of carrying on. And I was convinced that was it. No, that wasn't it. I didn't book it. They did call me in for the Dreamgirls movie. Like about a year or so later, a year or so after that, I got another call based on that audition that I had, that they kept me in their files for that. So, you know.
So important. You never know how other people are connected. Who's sitting, a director or choreographer might be working on 4 or 5 projects. We've had other actors on telling us that too, where it's like, you just have to present you. And if it's not this job, it's maybe another job.
Yep, exactly.
Do you continue to sing that at auditions, or was that not in your book anymore?
I don't sing it at auditions anymore. I actually did a production of it, and I did a tour of Dreamgirls, and so I kind of took it out of my book after that. It's in there. It's like towards the back. If they want it, I'll give it to them. But you know.
Right. We have a question from Karina. Do you know any good audition songs? What are your go-tos?
Okay, so for me, I actually enjoy taking a song like a pop or R&B song and dramatizing it, you know, and finding because everything's a story, every song's a story, and finding, you know, the moments in that story to bring to life. So one of them that I love to use, that I actually auditioned for Dreamgirls with, was Never Can Say Goodbye, Jackson 5.
Okay.
And I sang that thing like I was singing, and I'm telling you, I gave all the acting beats the same way. And so that's one of my favorite things to do, because they always sit up and say, I've never heard that song like that, because you have your own take on it, you know.
You're bringing yourself to the song and telling the story. I think sometimes that's hard to do with pop stuff, but that's such a great way of looking at it, of finding the story within it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Okay, so let's go to Dreamgirls. So you had Dreamgirls, you had The Color Purple. Were those were after Sideshow?
Oh no. So I you know, was just kind of, you know, in the city, just trying to figure it out. You know, I had done a production of Beehive with my friend of mine, Jasper Grant. He was the MD. So, but after that, he asked me if I would come in and audition for this non-union tour of The Color Purple. It's me as one of the church ladies there in The Color Purple. So right after I finished doing that, I found out they were auditioning for Dreamgirls. And so I auditioned and was cast as Effie. So this is the tour, the final bow of the whole tour of Dreamgirls. So there's that. But those were both non-union tours.
And so how long were each of those tours?
I believe The Color Purple was about 6 months, and Dreamgirls was about 10 months.
And so you lived out of a suitcase for 9 to 10 months with Dreamgirls.
Yeah, and it was a bus and truck tour. So we did one-nighters, you know. So we would be doing a show one night in one city, get on a bus, drive to the next city early the next day, get to the place, drop your stuff off at the hotel, go to the theater, do the show, do it all over again the next day. And so if we had 2 shows in a city in a row, like 2 days in a row, ooh, that was a blessing. So I feel like I kind of paid my dues with all that. After doing that one, I said, oh, I can do anything.
And what did you learn about yourself, your stamina, what you need to do? I mean, I imagine you need to really take care of yourself and know what you can put your body through and your voice to be able to, especially Effie and Dreamgirls. I mean,
that was a very interesting one, doing that, because of how demanding that role is and how demanding and grueling that kind of tour it was. And it showed me what I could do. It showed me that I could lead a show. It showed me that, you know, I was strong enough, that I was good enough, I could carry it, and that and I could do it after sleeping on the floor of a bus. you know, like,
Yep.
and so I was like, you know, I walked out of there like, okay, you know.
I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Absolutely. And so, okay, so for some of our friends who don't know, so when you start off, often you're not what we call non-equity, which means you're not part of the union, the actors union. And then if you want to perform on larger venues, like on Broadway and off Broadway, you become union. How did you make the switch from non-equity to equity?
So I auditioned for what amazing director choreographer, George Faison. He won the Tony for best choreography for The Wiz in the 70s, and he is an amazing talent. And so he kind of just took me under his wing, you know, and he was doing a new musical. It was a tour of a musical about the civil rights movement, about Dr. Dorothy Height. She was the president of the National Council of Negro Women. And so it was like the civil rights movement told through the female lens and through the women that were a part of it. And so it was an equity tour, and he cast me on the tour. And so I got my equity card very shortly after graduating. And so did this tour, but the tour it's ended like that because things fell through with the production. So here I am with no resume really and an equity card, saying that, okay, like I can't do this other work, but you know, I didn't have the resume that would get me really into the spaces. So eventually I ended up like moving away from the city for a couple of years, and I moved back to Phoenix and was just trying to figure it out. And I resigned from the union at that point. Which is something you can do. But then I started doing like non-equity work here or there, you know. And when I did Disaster off Broadway, it was my next chance to rejoin the union.
Okay.
So I'm actually in a unique kind of position because I'm actually not in the union, surprisingly enough. But it's because of some loophole, like weird thing. But it's a unique like thing. But I got my equity card first with the tour, and the next opportunity that I could have gotten it was with Disaster off Broadway.
Yes. Okay. We have a question about what the process is. I mean, that's basically, there's a couple different ways to get your equity card. Like you said, you got a show that gave you your card. You can acquire points from other things. There's a whole, if you look on the equity website, which is fantastic, and that it will explain everything of the steps you need to take. And for every, like you said, for every person, there's different ways of doing it. And if you get it and you don't want to, it's too early, then you can, hopefully it'll come up later in life. Like it happened for you, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got to move on to Waitress.
Okay.
So how did that opportunity come to you?
I have been a fan of Sarah Bareilles for forever. Like, and when I was doing Sideshow, right before Sideshow, I met Kayala Settle, and she became like someone who was, you know, in my life, and she's actually been a big part of, you know, my journey and my career, because she told Henry Krieger and Bill Condon that I was their fortune teller in Sideshow. She was like, it's her. I don't know who you're looking for. She's right there. So, you know, which I'm like, girl, thank you. So, you know, but so, you know, we do Sideshow, and when I'm doing it, Kayala is doing the workshop or like a reading of Waitress, and I just said, I don't care. I want to just be in the whatever room Sarah Bareilles is in. I want to be in. So I'm just putting it. I don't know if I just the secret in it or something or whatever. I kept talking about it, and then one day I got an email from my agent that I had an appointment. And I was like, oh, this is it. So when they were auditioning for ART, so I auditioned, then I had a call back, and Sarah was at my call back, and then I got another call back, and the whole producing team was there, and then I got the call saying that I got, you know, Waitress for ART to play Nurse Norma and to cover for Becky. So that was kind of Becky was kind of a part of my experience with Waitress from the beginning too.
I mean, what goes through your mind when you walk into an audition room and Sarah Bareilles is behind the table? And I assume you were singing her music, like they had you sing from the show?
Yeah, I was singing I Didn't Plan It. And I'm just like shaking, like, oh God. And then she's just like sitting there grooving. And then afterwards she was like, wow, you got a killer voice and you could have knocked me over with a feather. Okay. Sarah told me I had a killer voice and I was done. But yeah, it was so exciting. And so to go from that, to this, it was just
Oh,
that.
oh, being on stage with her.
To being on stage and playing her best friend and all that was just quite a journey from like fan to colleague to friend, so it was quite a journey. Yeah.
That is very cool. I'm very jealous. What is that for those of us, for those of our watchers that are aspiring actors and actresses? How do you approach a role when you don't sort of you just have the script in front of you? If you like with Nurse Norma, or even when you took over as Becky or an understudying Becky, how did you prepare yourself for the role?
Well, the funny thing about Nurse Norma, and they all tell you, like, it just wasn't on the page. The things that made the character what it ended up being weren't on the paper, really, And so that was my first opportunity of taking something and crafting it and creating it. And we had to do these character presentations where we had to include like a certain number of things, like a little list that Diane Paulus had given us. And we had to include all these things in it, but everything else was our free reign, location, how we strung them together. So through that, I was able to create the person from I'm talking the wig that ended up being used. It was a wig I used in my character presentation, like everything, like being able to craft that and sit with that person and chew on who she was. And it was really exciting to do, to dive into.
Have you had a similar experience with creating Wanda Sellner for Miss Doubtfire?
Absolutely.
Where you get the freedom of figuring out who this woman is.
Absolutely. It was a very similar, experience. And you have to kind of like, because it's a similar role in that sense, besides, except for like Wanda is a principal, she is a solo, all that kind of stuff. But it's similar in the sense of there's not she's just black and white, boom, 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 boom. But to fill it with everything else, it's always, that's where the exciting parts come in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take let's see some of these questions. So I have a question from Gail. Is there anything you would do differently if you were to start over?
I would focus more on being more, I'm a singer, I'm an actress, but like dancing, I wish that I had that more under my belt. And I also wish that I would have focused more, and I still can, because you never stop learning, focus on like training different parts of my voice, like legit and things like that, like put more attention into those kind of things. It's important to have every tool you can in your arsenal, every tool in your toolbox, every color in your paint wheel, and so I would hone more of those things.
I love that. Karina wanted to know, how did you find out auditions? I guess she says as a kid because she's 14, but when you were starting out also, I mean, it's a similar thing now. When you were still in college, how did you find out about auditions?
In college, I would go online. I would get Backstage magazine, the paper rather, I would get that. I would, and then when it moved online, I would look online. I would look on, playbill.com has the auditions listed, and I would just go on there, the Equity website. Back then, I don't know if they still do have the auditions listed and everything on there. And so that's how I would go about it. Mainly Backstage is what I would use. And you have a website where you can look for the auditions on the website with Backstage, or get a subscription to the magazine, I believe, still.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so we have a question from James. Sorry, just reading. Okay. do you have a preference between tour life and Broadway life? Are there pros and cons for both?
There are definitely pros and cons for both. And some people love to tour. Some people have been out on tours for years, decade, you know, and but I think it's to each his own. Like tour, I love like traveling around and getting paid to travel and see different places.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And you get to like meet new people and experience new places. I would have never known how much I love Portland, Oregon if it wasn't for going out there and doing a show. But
Yeah.
I love it out there now. I know, you know, and you get to save a little bit of money, you know, when you're out on the road. That's why I went on the Waitress tours, because I was like, okay, I get to originate Becky on tour and I get to stack a little cash away. You
There
know,
we go.
but Broadway, you know, being home, you get to be home. You know, you get to be home. You get to be involved in other, you know, outlets, maybe doing readings or workshops and things like that, whereas you wouldn't have that opportunity if you're on the road, you know. So it's like, you know, pros and cons.
Awesome. Okay, I have a question from Dinah. What is your pre-show ritual?
Pre-show.
Or how do you get ready?
How do I get ready for a show? I love music, and like listening to music and something that's going to get me in the vein of what I'm about to do, whether it's like vocally, like when I was doing Dreamgirls, I would listen to a Brandy album and just like sing along, and she got me together. But like I love listening to something that's going to get my mind focused and, you know, in the train that I'm supposed to be on. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
You physically warm up? Do you have a like vocal?
I vocally warm up, and it also depends on what I'm doing, what I'm doing in the show. So with Mrs. Doubtfire, I don't sing until over 2 hours into the show. Is when I sing my first note. So I warm up at intermission. Because I have to work to keep I gotta stay warm. So I have to. I think it varies, you know, based on which show you're doing and what you need for that moment. And so I warm up at intermission. I do a full warm up.
I love that. That's great. And you guys we had a question about, hopefully we'll be able to we were supposed to bring our Camp Broadway kids in July, so we're still holding out for that. But were you able to open the show in previews or not yet?
Yes, we started previews. We did. I think we had 3 previews.
Okay.
Before we got the you know, everybody have a seat. Yeah.
But I'm sure so far audiences were loving it.
Yeah, they've been great. They were great.
Fantastic. Okay, I have another question. So, do you have any advice for any aspiring actors or actresses that can help them make their dreams come true?
I would say my advice would be, if you are passionate about it, this is what my mom told me, to pursue your passion. And where your passion is, your purpose is tied up in that. And where your purpose is tied up in, your provision most times is found in there too. And so I think sometimes, you know, as I got discouraged, like, 'cause everybody's journey with this thing is different. Some people straight out of college, boom, Broadway, boom, like it's just like, whoa, fireworks. Other people, it's different. The journey is different. And my journey has been one step leads to another. I've literally done this in my journey in my career, from being in a non-equity tour to then being a lead in a non-equity tour to being in an off-Broadway show to being in a Broadway show in the ensemble to being a featured ensemble member to taking over a lead. Like, it's literally been one step after the other. But there's been times along that journey where it was like, what? You know, I graduated college in 2005 and didn't get my first Broadway show till 2014. And but I had to remember, this is my passion. And if I'm going to pursue this thing, then I need to trust that the way will come. And it did. And so it may not always be easy, but if you continue to pursue that thing while perfecting your craft, and continuing to learn, you know, it will be okay. I think that's kind of, I'm a product of perseverance, you know, me being where I'm at now, because it wasn't always easy, you know.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Just a couple more questions here before we have to end. We have a special ending for today. Who are some other actors or actresses that you look to for inspiration or favorites from when you were growing up or even now?
I love Felicia Rashad. Like 83, I love watching. She's just regal and elegant and poignant and just everything she does. Like I love Felicia Rashad. Like she's like someone I really looked up to. Lilias White is just like these are just my ones that I just was like, I always kind of just look at them like, oh, can I be you when I grow up? You know? So those are a couple.
Those are Lilias White. Those are great. Okay, so before we end, so Camp Broadway, who is the presenter of this series, our motto is develop your character. So what does character mean to you?
I feel like it's everything when people aren't watching. You know what I mean? Everything that counts. You know, who are you really when it counts? You know, and developing your character. I think it's about it's like developing muscles. You know, we have to put those things into practice. We have to put patience into practice. We have to work out that muscle. We have to put gratitude into practice, and thankfulness and graciousness. We have to put those things into practice. And so I look at it as developing muscles. You know, even love, we have to put that muscle into we have to work that thing, you know. And that's kind of what that means to me.
Fantastic. How can people keep track of you, what you're doing, your social media stuff? Where can they find you?
I'm pretty much just on Instagram. I wish I was better at Twitter and stuff, but my Instagram is just my name, Charity Angel Dawson.
Love that. Love that. And we'll see you back soon in Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah. And follow all of Camp Broadway's social media, all our Instagram, our Facebook, and all that good stuff. Before I end, just a reminder that we'll be back tomorrow at 1:30. So if you have to leave, we're going to show a short video. Do you want to explain this? I think it's just, I found it the other day and I felt like we had to end with it today. Do you want to tell what we're about to see?
Yes, it's the company of Mrs. Doubtfire coming together, singing our finale song, As Long As There Is Love. You know, I believe love is the answer, it's the reason, it's the way, and it's the why. And so, you know, this is As Long As There's Love, virtually.
Virtually, I love it. All right, Elliot, let's roll that video. I think I got you a little early, but here we go. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Rob McClure from Mrs. Doubtfire the Musical, and I, like probably most of you, am hunkering down, sheltering in place with perhaps the most organized sock drawer you could possibly imagine. And all of us at Mrs. Doubtfire are just soldiering through this weird, difficult time of uncertainty. We, like thousands of people out there, have no job to go to and are just waiting for this thing to pass. And as the great philosopher Tom Petty once said, the waiting is the hardest part. So we figured if social distancing is going to keep us out of the places we love to gather, like Broadway theaters, that we would bring a little bit of Broadway to you with the song that closes our show and perfectly sums up how we're feeling. So here it is. And in the words of Euphigenia Doubtfire, all my love to you, Poppet. You're going to be all right.
Keep an eye out for Charity.
When your world is getting cold and your story's getting old, you can feel and you will like you've lost control. Just remember what you got, 'cause you really got a lot. If you start with a heart in the the right spot. Wherever you go, whatever you do, the goodness will surely follow you, as long as there is love. Whatever you dream, whatever you choose, whatever the end or can you lose, as long as there is love.
And when life has got you down, and your smile becomes a frown, well, never fret, you can bet it will turn around.
So when the sun has slipped away and the skies have turned to gray, well, over time you will find it'll be okay. Wherever you go, whatever you do, a goodness will surely follow you, as long as there is love. Whatever you dream, whatever you choose, whatever the end, how can you lose, as long as there is love. Wherever you go, whatever you do, the goodness will surely follow you, as long as there is love. Whatever you dream, whatever you choose, whatever the end I can lose, as long as there is love. Yeah, love will make it better. As long as there is love. Better now, better forever. As long as there is love.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that was fantastic. Oh my gosh, how can you not smile after watching that?
My face hurts.
I think were you singing along?
A little bit, yeah.
I love it. Oh my gosh, thank you again for joining us, Charity. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Follow Charity, follow us on Camp Broadway. Come back tomorrow and join us. We'll have Jared Mazzochi, the multimedia designer and director. And we'll see you again. Have a great day. Thank you all.
Bye.